We've all heard that story about a friend or some person who gets a giant airline voucher for getting bumped off a flight. Let's talk about why this happens, why it makes so much sense for airlines to do this, and how you can take advantage of the situation to ensure you're basically getting paid to travel. I'll also talk a little bit about the different types of compensation available in the US. But first, let's look into why and how this works. The same way a doctor's office makes you wait, or a hotel turns you away, airlines overbook to maximize their revenue. Tens of thousands of people get bumped from flights every year because not everybody who buys a ticket shows up. While the way this sounds may make you mad, there's no doubt your average airline price is just gonna go way up if overbooking is no longer allowed. Anyways, back to the story. So overselling happens because airlines have a ton of data and they know the statistical probability that less than all of the people that buy tickets will show up. So they basically have a mathematical formula telling them exactly how many extra tickets to sell to result in a full flight. Or in this case, the number that gives them the highest expected value of revenue. So if they have 162 seats on their Boeing 737, they'll know whether it makes sense to sell 170, 175, 180, or some other magic number of tickets. Now, armed with my tips and tricks, you can prepare yourself and fully take advantage of the power of the voluntary bump. How you used to be able to do it was through a hub, and this might be true once again when travel picks up. But through hubs such as Chicago O'Hare, in the late afternoon or on the last flight of a busy day, it happened quite often. This was especially true when weather delays kicked in and airlines worked to accommodate other passengers. Flying during the holidays also gave you a higher chance of getting bumped. In addition to that, those popular vacation destinations will have a lot of families flying during the school breaks, and they usually can't afford the time to get on a later flight. They often also have checked luggage that make it very difficult to put them on a later flight. When they're considering bumping passengers, the airlines will be more likely to give you and two other singles the bump over a family of three who, let's say, have five medium-sized checked luggages that are all going to be black. So a little story time. My girlfriend and I were taking a vacation to Cabo, and we were joking how it would be cool if we got a voucher to take a bump. So we're sitting at our gate, and the next thing you know, the gate agent was asking for volunteers. Naturally, I ran up to the counter, and the offer was $200. This was too low for us, but I knew it was a vacation flight full of families. So we said to let us know if this offer goes up. In addition, they weren't sure if they were going to need our seats at all, so we told them where we were sitting and to let us know if anything changes. So we actually boarded the plane, sat down, got comfortable with our drinks, and a few minutes later, the gate agent comes up looking for us and tells us that the offer is now $1,100 each and that the next flight would just be 2 hours later in a different terminal. We knew our airport well, so we looked at each other, got up, got off the plane to claim our vouchers. Our original flight from American Airlines was only about $300 round trip, but as a result of taking a Delta flight just a little bit later in a different terminal, we secured over $1,000 each. Now we used a combination of the following tips to ensure that we got the most out of the experience. Keep in mind that pre-pandemic, things were definitely a little bit simpler, but some of these tips haven't changed. So here are tips to follow if you know you're willing to be flexible with your schedule. Tip number 1. Know what the airline's policy allows them to offer. This changes constantly, so make sure to double check my info as it may change at any time. But for now, let's take a look at the updated offerings for voluntary bumps on American, United, and Delta. As of 2021, they all have different policies. While an involuntary bump can net you up to $1,350, that's only if they don't have enough volunteers and have to bump you. For the lucky volunteers, Delta offers gift cards that can be redeemed at a dozen retailers. United offers travel vouchers or even miles, which ultimately can be much more valuable than dollars, especially if you already know how to use them wisely and effectively. American, on the other hand, used to only offer travel vouchers, which I never complained about, but is now catching up to the other two and may begin offering gift cards or miles in the future as well. Tip number 2. Keep in mind that pre-pandemic, this was a little bit of a negotiation, and it still hasn't changed. When you first arrive, go up to the gate agent, be nice, be kind, and let them know that you're willing to give up your seat even before the announcement is formally made. Don't take up too much of their time, but establish that rapport early so they can keep you in mind. Number 3, have just a carry-on with you. When we travel for short periods of time, 1 to 2 weeks, it's very possible to pack everything into just a carry-on and have a backpack as a personal item for more expensive things such as cameras, laptops, and more. Don't check your luggage because some airlines won't even allow you to volunteer if you've already checked your luggage. In addition, for domestic flights, it's quite likely that your luggage might get completely lost in the shuffle if they allow it to go ahead to the destination on your original flight. Or if they pull it off to put it on your new flight, it's still kind of a gamble. Now for international flights, even if the airline allows you to take a voluntary bump with luggage checked, it's going to make it that much harder because they have to go through the entire luggage hold to pull it off the flight. If that's the case, they'd much rather choose somebody with just a carry-on than, let's say, a checked black medium suitcase. Number 4, going into it, have a number in your head and an idea of an acceptable delay if you're a solo traveler. So just be honest with yourself and put your priorities first. You don't want to have any regrets after the trip. If you're super flexible, remember that if your next flight is also oversold, you can volunteer again and over again, which can actually end up netting you a ton of money. Now, if you're going with others, it's much more important to have a game plan. How much would they have to offer you for you guys to be happy with taking another flight? How much later are you willing to wait? And are you willing to move to a different terminal? And especially if you're traveling as a family, what if they end up breaking you guys up onto separate flights? These are all very big risks that could also very much happen. And they exponentially multiply as your party increases in number. So make sure you have that down. Tip number 5. When getting bumped for your oversold flight, the agent has quite a bit of power. Lots of people suggest asking for an upgrade if you get chosen to be bumped. If you've already established a rapport with the gate agent, I think it's more than reasonable to ask them respectfully, and it's even likely that it'll happen. They can also book you from a connecting flight to a nonstop, and they can book you on a longer flight to earn you more miles. They can even give you lounge passes and meal vouchers. Again, like the upgrade, don't be afraid to ask for these, just be extra nice about it. Number 6 goes back to the beginning, but I definitely learned this lesson when I was going through it. When they start calling dollar amounts for volunteers, go to the gate agent as soon as possible and ask them what flight they will put you on. Hopefully, with the rapport you've built, you can start figuring out if this is going to be worth it for you. Now, at the end of the day, if you know what you're getting yourself into and the best practices for approaching this situation, you're always going to come out ahead. After all, if you're not willing to give up your seat for $200, don't do it. Wait for a higher one, and if somebody else takes it at the lower offer, that's okay because you'd be happier taking the original flight anyways. I personally now have an Excel sheet to track all of my airline credits, airline vouchers, along with all the benefits that I get from all of my credit cards. I actually have some credit card calculators if you guys want to check out my reviews on all of the personal Chase credit cards and all of the personal American Express credit cards as well. If you want to click on this suggested video right here, I'll also post these videos in the description below. Now, as always, thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to click subscribe below. Smash that like button, and I'll see you guys next time.